Picture this. You're absolutely certain you're right. The evidence is clear, your logic is sound, and anyone who disagrees is simply missing the obvious facts. But here's the unsettling truth. Your brain has been lying to you since the moment you woke up this morning. And mine has been lying to me too. Welcome to the hidden architecture of human thought, where cognitive biases, systematic glitches in our mental software, silently orchestrate every decision we make, every belief we hold, and every reality we construct. According to recent research published in Frontiers in Psychology in 2025, these biases aren't just occasional errors, they're universal, systematic deviations from rationality that shape everything, from our personal relationships to global policy decisions. Frontiers in Psychology. But here's where it gets philosophically profound. If our brains are systematically unreliable, what does that mean for truth, free will, and the nature of reality itself? The paradox of human rationality. For centuries, philosophers celebrated humans as rational beings. Aristotle called us rational animals. Enlightenment thinkers built entire civilizations on the assumption of human reason. But in 1974, psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky shattered this illusion. Their groundbreaking research revealed that human judgment systematically deviates from logic and probability. Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize in Economics for this work, demonstrated that we don't have one thinking system, we have two. System 1 operates automatically, emotionally, and intuitively. System 2 is slower, more deliberate, and supposedly rational. But here's the catch. System 1 is in the driver's seat 95% of the time, and it's riddled with biases. Behavioral Economics Institute. Recent studies from 2024 and 2025 show these biases affect everything from climate change denial to medical diagnoses, from financial decisions to social media echo chambers. A 2025 study in Nature revealed that cognitive biases like confirmation bias and positivity bias fundamentally alter how we learn from both positive and negative outcomes. Nature.
The Big Five. Biases that hijack your reality. 1. Confirmation bias, the echo chamber in your skull. Confirmation bias is the king of cognitive distortions. It's our tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information that confirms what we already believe, while ignoring contradictory evidence. Think about the last heated political debate you witnessed. Each side presented facts, yet neither changed their mind. Why? Because confirmation bias transforms our brains into echo chambers. We don't seek truth, we seek validation. Peter Wasson's 1960 research first identified this bias, and it's only gotten worse in the age of social media. Algorithms feed us content that matches our existing beliefs, creating digital echo chambers that reinforce our confirmation bias exponentially. A 2025 study on cognitive biases in political decision-making found that social media amplifies this effect, causing people to double down on initial biases rather than revising them. Cognitive research in political studies. Philosophically, this raises a disturbing question. If we're predisposed to confirm rather than challenge our beliefs, is genuine knowledge even possible?
3. Availability heuristic. Why shark attacks feel more dangerous than they are. This bias causes us to overestimate the likelihood of events that easily come to mind. After watching news coverage of a plane crash, flying feels terrifying, even though you're statistically more likely to die driving to the airport. The availability heuristic explains why people buy flood insurance after floods, but not before, why terrorism dominates political discourse despite causing fewer deaths than car accidents, and why pandemic fears surge after media coverage, but fade when the news cycle moves on. Evolutionarily, this makes sense. Our ancestors survived by remembering vivid, emotionally charged events, like that time someone got eaten by a tiger. But in our modern information landscape, where media amplifies rare events, the availability heuristic becomes systematically misleading. 4. Sunk cost fallacy, the trap of, "But I've already invested so much." You've been in a terrible relationship for 3 years. You stay because, "I've already invested 3 years, I can't give up now." You've watched 90 minutes of a boring movie. You sit through the painful ending because, "I've already watched this long." This is the sunk cost fallacy, our irrational tendency to continue something because we've already invested time, money, or effort, even when abandoning it is clearly the better option. Studies consistently show this bias affects major infrastructure projects, corporate investments, and personal decisions. Research shows that 9 out of 10 transportation projects end up with massive cost overruns because decision-makers can't let go of failing initiatives. Philosophically, the sunk cost fallacy reveals how our past imprisons our future. We become hostages to our previous selves. 5. Dunning-Kruger effect. Why ignorance breeds confidence. Perhaps the most humbling bias. People with limited knowledge in a domain systematically overestimate their competence, while true experts underestimate theirs.
This explains why your uncle with a Facebook medical degree feels confident contradicting actual doctors, why inexperienced investors make the boldest predictions, and why the loudest voices in any debate are often the least informed. Psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger discovered that incompetent people suffer from a dual burden. They make poor decisions and lack the metacognitive ability to recognize their incompetence. Meanwhile, experts, aware of the complexity and nuances, hesitate to make definitive claims. The philosophical horror? The less you know, the more certain you feel. Wisdom begins with recognizing the vastness of what you don't know. The evolutionary roots. Why we're wired for bias. Here's the twist. These biases aren't bugs, they're features. From a neuroevolutionary perspective, cognitive biases evolved as efficient shortcuts for survival in our ancestral environment. Confirmation bias helped early humans quickly identify patterns and stick to strategies that worked. Availability heuristic ensured we remembered dangerous events. The sunk cost fallacy kept our ancestors committed to long-term investments, like cultivating crops or building shelters. But as leading cognitive scientists argue in recent research, what worked in the Stone Age catastrophically fails in the modern world. Our brains evolved for immediate physical threats, not abstract long-term challenges like climate change, pandemics, or financial planning, frontiers in psychology. We're running caveman software in a digital world, and the consequences are everywhere. The philosophical crisis? Are we free? This brings us to philosophy's most uncomfortable question. If cognitive biases systematically control our thoughts, beliefs, and decisions, do we actually have free will? Ancient philosophers assumed rational deliberation. But if System 1 makes most decisions automatically and unconsciously, driven by evolutionary programming and cognitive shortcuts, where does that leave human agency?
Some philosophers argue that recognizing our biases is itself an act of freedom, a metacognitive transcendence of our programming. Others suggest that free will is an illusion, another bias that helps us navigate social responsibility. Recent research on AI and cognitive bias adds another layer. A 2025 study published in PNAS found that large language models actually amplify human cognitive biases in moral decision-making, suggesting these biases are so deeply embedded they replicate across different forms of intelligence. Escaping the matrix. Can we overcome our biases? The sobering truth from psychological research: we're remarkably bad at recognizing our own biases. Studies show we're excellent at spotting biases in others, but blind to our own, a phenomenon called bias blind spot. However, there's hope. Recent cognitive science research suggests several strategies. 1. Slow down System 1. When making important decisions, deliberately engage System 2 through structured analysis. 2. Seek contradictory evidence. Actively hunt for information that challenges your beliefs. 3. Embrace epistemic humility. Recognize the limits of your knowledge. Fight the Dunning-Kruger effect with intellectual modesty. 4. Build bias-aware environments. Design decision-making systems that account for predictable biases through nudges and choice architecture. Conclusion: the examined mind. Socrates famously declared, "The unexamined life is not worth living." In the 21st century, we must update this. The unexamined mind is not worth trusting. Cognitive biases reveal that reality isn't what we see. It's what our biased brains construct from fragmentary evidence, evolutionary programming, and emotional impulses. Understanding this doesn't free us from bias, but it offers something equally valuable: intellectual humility and the beginning of wisdom. The next time you're certain you're right, pause. Ask yourself, which cognitive bias might be controlling me right now? What evidence am I ignoring? What would I need to see to change my mind? Because in the end, the most dangerous bias might be believing you don't have any.